Stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back then. Gonna stand my ground, won't be turned around. In a world that keeps on dragging me down, gonna stand my ground. And I won't back down. I won't back. Hey,
Yeah, protest. This is Donald Jeffries here with you. Very special guest today, my Lisa Belanger. And Lisa, I was going to say, that's how you pronounce your name, right? As an old hockey fan, I know a lot of those guys have it as Belanger. It's Belanger, right?
Belanger, yep, you got it. But
Okay, just want to make sure.
listen, you
Okay.
know what they say.
Okay, but
Just call me anything, but just don't call me late for dinner.
that's an old one. Yeah, I remember that too. But Lisa's been a Massachusetts attorney for over 25 years. She focuses on constitutional law, which is obviously very important to me, why we get along so well. So right now, she's embroiled with the Massachusetts bar over. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't even know if I understand guardianship or something with her father and everything. She's a whistleblower. She's been involved with the J6 defendants as well. So she's got a lot on her plate, and I'm sure it'll be a very interesting interview. So Lisa, the tables have turned here because you interviewed me a couple times now. I get to interview you.
Well, listen, can I tell you how honored I am as
Great to have
always?
you on the show.
I can't thank you enough.
Of course. I don't get tired of the compliments, believe it or not. I'm not that jaded yet. So yeah, I love hearing. It's amazing to me that you're so supportive and you're doing all kinds of great work. So tell us, first of all, you said you followed in your father's footsteps. He was a lawyer. So was he kind of a crusader for the truth too? Was he a constitutional scholar as well? Is that what led you down the
Well,
path?
he definitely was a crusader for the truth. That's exactly how it happened. He's the one who I get yeah. This pretty much started with all about him, and I, I'm thinking just from before I was even probably when I was in utero. I guess this was meant to be. I think. Um, and so my dad, he was a Boston attorney for over 50 years. He his true love, and I think he began with criminal defense, and then he started more so with the tort side of things. Helping people uh, who have been injured and trying to help those who are the underdogs, the ones who basically don't who have who don't have a strong voice in the fight. And I guess that's always been sort of imbued into me that that's what I'm supposed to do. For me, it's almost like I'm on autopilot, right? It's not even
Mhm.
something that I necessarily choose. Uh, it just is just who I am. That trying to do what's right. Uh, my father always taught me to stand up for other people as well. That it's not just about myself. And I actually, Dawn, it's kind of funny. I
Mhm.
tried not to be an attorney.
Mhm.
I kept
Try
trying to
not to.
put off law school, and
Uh,
I said to my dad, "See, look, I stick at the LSATs." I said, "Look, I just, I really, I'm just not sure that I want to do this." And he just, my dad, I guess like a pit bull, just it was something that he just he wanted to have happen, and out of my
sure.
love for him and my respect for him, I said okay.
Well, you obviously that's great. You had such a strong bond with your dad. So, and I think a lot of where you are today is because of that. So you basically they placed him. Why don't you talk a little bit? What I'm just reading about it, what I understand is that they placed him in some kind of guardianship. He was a virtual prisoner, and this is something apparently is happening to too many people. And this is when I talk about the corruption from top to bottom. This is the kind of stuff that happens, and it's not at a level where most people see it. But and that's why obviously it hit home with you. So talk about what happened to him and how it's happening to other people.
I mean, it's just so surreal. A lot of people don't believe it, especially my father was a prominent attorney, did everything that that people are told to do. He had the best of the best, writing, the advanced planning where you do the durable power of attorney, you have your estate, the trust, and no matter how ironclad that was, when uh, it just didn't matter. It didn't matter that he was an attorney. It didn't matter that uh, he chose to have his durable attorney to be me, who at that time I also was an attorney, 15 years at that time. Uh, so it goes to show you, and I hope people understand that these documents, they should be done. They're necessary. They're helpful to people for substantiating and backing up what the person's real desires are and their intentions and so forth. But the cautionary tale is that by no means is it an insurance policy. It is not.
Mm.
It does not protect you if someone has it in their mindset to throw you into the court system. Once you're in the court system, the law goes out the window. So, uh, just briefly, my father's case, boy, I'll tell you, talk about convoluted. It is one hell of a story, and I'm sure it's going to make a incredible movie. So, my dad, who happened to be very wealthy, uh, had lots of money and dealt with a bank called BNY Mellon. He had he had his investments all with that one company and was very deep rooted with them. 20 years. I myself had dealt with the people, his investment managers and so forth. And I'll tell you what, you would have thought that you would almost would think that they were actually friends.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, uh, this. So basically, what happened though, there was a situation where my dad became vulnerable, uh, and he ended up in the emergency room, and it happened to do with uh, early onset, getting, I guess, dementia. He wasn't diagnosed at the time, but what happened is that even though we had a strong family, God, just going to that hospital and the fact that because he had some kind of issue with supposedly dementia or Alzheimer's, that's all that needed to happen. And the hospital led me to believe that they were admitting him to get diagnosed because there was no real diagnosis, and that they would be doing testing to determine what's happening. And I didn't protest because I wanted to know what was happening for my father. And what happened is that emergency room, that hospital, ended up sending my father to a locked down psych facility. And by doing that, uh, they ended up keeping him away from me. And that's what started this whole hell into the guardianship thing. Now, you have to understand that the hospitals, the attorneys who often, who, uh, who are counsel for the hospitals, they actually uh, also deal extensively in the probate and family court. I mean, they are actually in the court. They petition people to be put under guardianships. They also act as court appointed guardians. Sometimes they play conservators. So here we have a system that I knew nothing about that launched my father into the probate and family court system, even though he had a family. Now, the real linchpin in this is that the financial advisors were the ones to really make this happen. They made it so uh, that his own advisors had an attorney go into a lockdown facility with papers already filled out to sign and say, I don't want this anymore, while being under under heavy duty drugs. Okay,
Yeah.
it has not been disputed in any way that of those course of events, but there it went, and then it just the shit. So, sorry, can I say that on this?
Yeah. Oh, of
hit
course. Of course.
the poop hit the fan.
Yeah. Well, that's and so it's tragic these situations happen. So, and you said basically your father ended up dying under the care. Was it related to the COVID protocols, or when did it happen?
No, actually, it was seemed all pretty well orchestrated because at the very beginning, it was in 2011 when they uh, actually, I mean, literally did kidnap my father based on medical grounds. Um, and it actually, they brought in protective services and the whole shebang, right?
Yeah.
They actually, at the very get go, did a projection. They did a projection as to how long my father's uh, millions would last. They projected it out 7 years. Wow,
Wow.
pretty damn close. Trump at how long the
Yeah.
assets would
Yeah.
last. I can't,
Mhm.
the fact that the judge did not even find it disturbing
Yeah.
that why are you even doing such a projection, by the way? Right?
Yeah. That's
But
yeah.
in essence, they had drugged him for so long for 7 years, and it's amazing that that he actually even lasted that long, given the medical abuse that he endured. So he basically he was, I believe, and I think the documents will show that he was murdered for it's this calculated plan where they get you on the antipsychotics. Okay, he was a walking intelligent man when they got him. Very soon
Yeah.
thereon, what they do is they then make it so that you're sedentary. Then they make it so you can't
Yeah.
walk, that you can't talk. Um, so it's from that protocol that it was inevitable that
Yeah. Well, this is some.
and in fact, I'll tell you what, I strongly have believe that uh, they actually the actual time of death was calculated. I think they gave him you know extra morphine. You know how that works, right?
Sure. Sure. Well, and you're basically describing a situation where two awful systems, because and we'll talk more about judicial corruption because that's what you're mostly familiar with. But so this strays over into the medical industrial complex. So when these two meet, so your father got kind of a double whammy, and it's somebody in the chat room. And I would say, first of all, hi to William Hale from Sydney, Australia. It's great to have you listening in. And Steve Cameron, my buddy, productions. He said sounds like financial vultures. And Master Jim says it's medical kidnapping, and we've heard a lot about that. Uh, so, you went through this tragedy, and so, but you were moved enough to. So I guess you're looking into this happening to other people. Is that what you're doing now, or what is your? Because you're going up against the Massachusetts bar. Is it related to this or to your other whistleblowing?
I don't really pick it. It's kind of funny. You know, well, I started looking into this early on. So this happened. I was 15 years already into practice around 2011, and I'll tell you what. Yeah, I knew the system was cruddy. I didn't know how cruddy it really was until I found out about what goes on in the probate and family courts. Okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
hell had no clue. Didn't matter, you know. Um, that is its own separate animal. Let me tell you. So
yeah,
when I happened to be, thrown into this particular forum, this probate and family court, I've spent years. I mean, arguing before the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. Uh, Doing a lot of appellate work, helping out a lot of attorneys and with trials. So it really dawned on me though when I'm sitting there or standing there before the court and they just didn't want to even allow evidence in that it was talk about kangaroo court with a
yeah,
capital K and then just
yeah,
add that exponentially. The fact that
yeah.
they wanted to gaslight me to make it look like I was crazy. I mean, are you kidding me?
Uh,
Here's the problem. I know the law. I don't care what you're thinking the law is, but you guys are off your rocker if you think you're going to tell me that you're going to pretend like you're not going to put in evidence. You're just running roughshod. I mean, it really was. It was worse than Alice in Wonderland. So I said to myself, if they could do this to an attorney, I said, "What the hell do you think they're doing to other people who
yeah,
can't who don't even know?" So I said to myself,
yeah,
I said I took the players that were involved in my specific case, and I did a little research onto other cases that they were involved in. And wow, did I talk about Pandora's box? That just started the road to
yeah,
hell, and I just kept on
yeah,
putting the pieces together all the way through. I went to courts all over the state. Okay, I got public records. Everything I got was public. And what I did was is I made copies of all these court documents and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And all along the way, I'm trying to fight for my father in all the avenues that you could possibly think of. Uh, the superior courts, the appellate courts, and it, it it was just the same thing over and over and over again. And
yeah.
so finally, by 4 years of this, I'm thinking, you know, yeah, the law isn't exactly being applied here. I don't know what's going
Well,
on.
that's why I really value your perspective because you're in the system and this is maybe one day I'll write a book about the court system about the legal system of the injustice system because there's so much I don't know you see it from the inside Lisa but I've been doing research for years just keeping notes that's what I do and I watch these investigation discovery shows a lot of them and just again to remind me of how bad people are I guess apparently every family has somebody that's killing others but the other things is just when I look at how many people are convicted in this country on the most ridiculous evidence. One crackhead or something that changes his testimony, and the jury puts him away for life. So that's what I would like to expose: is that nobody understands reasonable doubt, and what you're describing is that. This is how extensive the corruption is when you get family court, and lots of especially bitter. I've never been through a divorce, thank goodness, but so many people that have testified to this and child custody and all that stuff. But if it's how can we clean this up because you're trying to guess to make some inroads there but this is the lower end of the system and we can't even get the corruption out there.
Well, here's the thing. Here's This is what is so. I am just like I don't know what to do because here's the thing: the people who were involved in doing the predatory and heinous things that they did were actually part of the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers. All right, so
Yeah.
I guess that's a little bit of a problem, right? That when you actually show that the chairman of the of that agency actually is a criminal as well,
Yeah.
they
Yeah. Well, that's
decide they
yeah.
decide we don't want you to, we want to shut you up.
Well,
But
that's the thing is that people in my book Idiocracy, one of the examples I gave was this video that went viral of a guy that went to a school board and was talking about how he'd been bullied in that school system. He was a middle-aged guy, decades before, and he pointed the finger at the school superintendent and said, "And you were the main bully." This guy's a school superintendent. So these people are in positions of power. So how are you going to change when they're guilty of the same stuff?
and then it got worse though, because so what happened is I put all these pieces together, and I filed a federal civil private action showing racketeering, and the vehicle in the actual enterprise being the Massachusetts probate and family court system. Okay. Now, 492 pages. I understand that that's a large complaint. I get it. But let me just say this. I didn't just put down assertions and factual uh, allegations just about my father. I laid out. I mean, if you're going to say racketeering, you can't just do one person, right?
Yeah.
So I put in there, I think 20 cases, 20 different cases I lay out specifically with documents what they did. Now, I'm sorry that it was 492 pages, but I mean, if you're going to do a lot of dirty things, is that my fault? But be it as it may, Judge Allison Burroughs, in federal court, decided she thought it was too long and didn't want to read it.
What did Nancy
Did we know
Pelosi
there
say?
was a problem?
First we vote on it, and then we'll read it. I mean, these people don't like to read.
Right. But so then what happened is I cut it down by 200 pages. Guess what? She said it was
Still too
still
long.
too long to read.
Still too
No,
long. Come on.
no. Here's the ironic thing. There was a newspaper that did a hit piece on me and was able to sum up the gist of the whole complaint in 2 sentences. Funny how they were able to get the gist of it. Right? So,
No, it's
but it gets even worse though, because we think it was. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm going to get in federal court because and getting it out of that forum. So little did I know. So I get the federal judge, Allison Burroughs, but she forgot to disclose a thing. She forgot to disclose that she actually had a prior working relationship with the attorney for who was defending the Guardian.
That's all over the place.
Do you
That's
yeah. Do you think that maybe that should be disclosed?
But
so what happened was I didn't find that out until I was going up for an appeal to the federal court. So what I found out also was that Judge Allison Burroughs, not only does she get to play trial judge, but she gets to play a judge in the First Circuit Appellate Court on a 3-judge panel on multiple occasions with the same judges all the time. And let's see, that was Judge Lynch and oh God, who was the other one? All right, God, how can I forget it? Celia. So
yeah.
when I brought my filing into the First Circuit Court of Appeals, before anything could happen, before anything could be assigned, I brought out that conflict of interest. All right.
Yeah.
I filed my thing. Now, I filed my complaint or my, the beginning of the action for the appeal. 9 months later, there's a summary decision. Now, a summary decision means that it's supposed to be so clear cut that you don't have a leg to stand on, that you're out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I suggest if it took you freaking 9 months to figure that out, something ain't right. But here's the worst part, and shows about their arrogance and just that there is no oversight and that they are allowed to be criminals and they flaunt it.
Yeah.
They put Judge Lynch on the 3-judge panel that ousted me. Okay? I said to do people, I put it in writing. I said she sits on the panel with Judge Lynch and Judge Celia. And you, and now is that not the,
Well, that's why I'm amazed that you have the because I'm the point, Lisa, where I'm just that's why I suggested the let's form John Doe clubs after one of my favorite movies, Meet John Doe. Just try to get good people together that want to be nice to each other and follow the golden rule. I mean, let's do something because politics is lost. I mean, we're going to talk obviously about what's happening now with this absurd January 6th televised show trial thing or whatever the hell it is. But the criminals are in charge. The lunatics are running the asylum. Choose your analogy. I don't know how you can clean up. Are you familiar with a guy named Sherman? Have you ever heard of Sherman Skolnick? Sherman
no,
Skolnick
I
was
don't recall. For
well.
some reason, I think for some reason it doesn't ring a bell, but I can't place it. So go,
Well, he,
please.
he he was he was great back in the 70s, 80s, maybe into the 90s. He's gone now, but he was this guy in Chicago who formed an outfit called the Committee to Clean Up the Courts. And this guy was in a wheelchair. He would show up all kinds of places, and he was trying to do what you're trying to do, trying to expose how crooked these courts are from top to bottom. And unfortunately, Sherman didn't get very far, and this is a problem because how do you do it when, as in your case, they're just going to appoint the judge that you have a problem with to oversee your case, and I mean that's what do you do, and
Wait,
they
here's
won't
the real
recuse
thing, though.
themselves.
Appoint the judge, but it's just like color forms or like Mister and Mrs. Potato Head. I mean, does it really matter which one? I mean,
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's not even a coin toss. Okay,
Yeah,
I'd have a better chance with the coin toss.
yeah,
But because it is so, it is that the well is so poisoned. I mean, seriously. I mean, when listen, here's the biggest problem: is the Attorney General Maura Haley, okay, has aided and abetted this criminality. Okay, she is
mhm,
actually. I have brought a couple of civil actions, which one is still pending, by the way, and still going on, and she's actually representing these criminals. Do you understand this? An attorney general who taking the official position to
yeah,
to in effect be the bad guy's counsel. I'm thinking to myself, okay,
yeah,
I could have, okay, the attorney general, let's see, they're supposed to punish
yeah,
people who do bad things. Uh,
yeah.
I didn't know there were
And
supposed to be defense attorneys.
well, who do you? And that's why Sherman Skolnick he was on to something. Citizens Committee. I started out with Mark Lane, Citizens Committee of Inquiry. That's what we need. We need citizen oversight because it's hopeless. Something like the medical establishment, the legal profession, any of these police, any of this stuff where they can't police themselves. No pun intended, and they're not going to, right? So we need a citizens group, but how do we do that? Because enough people aren't interested, and people like you should be applauded. But you know how whistleblowers get treated. How have you been treated by how's your community treating you? Are they bringing you dinner every night and patting you on the back?
Well, I'll tell you what, I am so, exactly. Unfortunately, right? I, you know, I I have met some really great people along the way here, but in Massachusetts, I'll tell you what are the chances of really being able to unite a solid group of people to overcome this? I mean, this really is. You want to talk about
Yeah,
Sodom and Gomorrah? I mean, I
yeah,
am. I'll tell you what. Best thing I ever did, and is moving out of this what whole state. Okay.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
So
So,
you're not in Massachusetts anymore. You're not living there now.
well, I am now a resident of Northern Maine, but
Okay,
I have a few loose ends to tie up here, so
right.
I do have to travel back and forth. But for all intents and purposes, I no longer consider myself a masshole.
Well, that's a great line. Tell us what's happening. So exactly what's happening. June 21st is your appearance, right, in court, or
Okay,
what's happening then?
okay. So this is such a great story. We're gonna need a bunch of sequels, Dawn. So June 21st is the federal court. I am still
Okay.
licensed. Okay, I still have my federal license to practice in the trial court. federally. So what happened
Mhm.
is, so there are two jurisdictions. You got the state and the federal. So because the state uh, decided to do their lawless retaliation and decide to get a judge who actually had it out for me to begin with to suspend my license for 2 years. Okay. And I'm actually impressed. Only 2 years. Can you imagine that? I thought, what? Wow, just 2 years.
Yeah.
I said, that's pretty impressive. Right. So I have
Yeah.
been fighting that in the state court all the way. Okay. Trying to appeal it. But believe this or not, I'm sorry to I don't mean to divert here over here, but when you can prove that the actual clerks of the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts have tampered and altered docket information, do we not have a problem?
Yeah.
Do we have not a problem that
Yeah.
attorney
Should be.
AG there, Maura Haley, I've made how many
Yeah.
freaking reports to you, and you want to play dumb like you don't know me? You think that like not you're not returning my emails and so forth, and you think you can go like no. So anyways,
Yeah.
because the state judge decided to uh, uh, engage in bad things and make that terrible suspension, which is considered lawless retaliation of a whistleblower, they decided so even before it could be considered a done deal, they gave notice to the federal court. And the federal court said, let's have a show cause hearing. So I still, they did not. They did not take it away, but June 21st is the hearing, the public hearing. So, shout out to people around the area, New Hampshire, maybe Mass. Love to see you at the Boston Federal Court,
Yes.
3 o'clock. Judge Patty Sarris's courtroom. Please come
Yeah.
in. I'm sure the more the merrier, and I would really appreciate the support in the courtroom
Yes. We need to
because
support you.
because I'll tell you why. That's the real accountability, folks. When
Yeah.
they see people in that courtroom, and I'm not talking about just people who have court things waiting in line. Judges definitely. I'll tell you what, they definitely seem it seems to make a difference when they have to look people in the face. And
Hmm.
so I that's what I hope for many people that there's some kind of forum that we can organize to actually have people do that type of thing because that's what we need. So anyways,
Yeah.
that's June
Yeah.
21st. Uh, uh, it's supposed to be showing why they should not be taking my license. But think about that. Think about that for a second,
Ugh,
Don. Should not
it's
why
horrible.
they
Yeah.
should not be taking my license. Is that not like an ass backwards thing to of a burden
Well,
of
you
proof?
haven't to prove your innocence. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's that. Yeah. Burden of proof is supposed to be on them, isn't it?
Yes, and I'd like to know, since it's directly related, I really, don't tell me it's not relevant that the state courts altering dockets and information of that particular matter. If that's not relevant, please
Yeah.
don't even.
Well, and I'm sure that, and they probably know. They probably know something about you being outspoken on podcasts and so forth. So that probably doesn't help your cause that you're talking about, all this other stuff and just kind of general corruption. And it's just, but this is the problem.
Well,
I try to tell people that the corruption is from top to bottom. Even if somehow we could get, the first time in our history where we could vote out even a majority of incumbents, let alone 96%, which are reelected every election. But if we could completely overturn Congress and somehow get all good people in there, you'd still have things like you're at your level, and you have to get rid of all that corruption. How do you do it? It's just it's a
okay. Well,
monumental
here's the thing.
task.
I definitely listen. I don't see how it can be done from the inside because right? I
Yeah.
just don't see that happening. But this is why the problem is. It's because of the attorneys and the judges, but even more so the attorneys. Okay, they allow this to happen. This is the only reason why it's happening because because they're willing to go along to get along.
Right.
So people are getting screwed over left and right by their own attorneys. Worse, they're being paid to get messed over. And they half the time they
Right.
don't even know it.
And you have to. What is amazing about the so, and again, it's about all these, whether it's police, medical, legal system, where there is no oversight. So let's say you have we know there's tons of judges that are out of control, that are completely biased, don't recuse themselves when they should, wear their politics on their sleeves. I mean, it happens all the time. Roger Stone's trial was one example of that. Lisa Berman Jackson, people like that. Who is there that can look and say, "Wow, this judge is out of control," or something, or this district attorney, like going back to David Wood-Lentz, who doctored the time card records of Bruno Richard Hauptmann in the Lindbergh baby case, and they found decades later, they found out, yeah, he did, he doctored him. Hauptmann was at work. He had an alibi. Even if something had existed back then, what could have been done about him? What would you even do? Because you have to go through the same legal system that's corrupt. That's why we need something outside of it, a
That's
citizens
that's
commission or some kind of citizens oversight.
that's what people need to understand. They keep on thinking that somehow, if they present the right evidence, that somehow there's going to be justice in the court system. People don't get it yet. I don't know what to do to be able to get people to understand that it doesn't work the way you think it does. They
Right.
do not. They don't play by the rules. They don't
No.
allow evidence in.
Right.
It only works if you're in the club and you're doing the not dirty. You're doing the dirty
Right.
things. Come on.
And they
So
do it all the time.
so for
They
people
don't.
to please stop saying, well, once we get into the court, the last thing you ever want to do, okay, if you don't have to, do not go into the court system. Just don't do it. I mean, it's
Exactly.
different. It's different when you have to defend yourself. Then you got to go all out. Okay, you got to do
Yeah.
what you can to try and you know survive and get what's right. But other than that, don't
Right.
initiate. Do not do not throw it into the court system.
And just to be honest, when I'm talking about citizens, really theoretically, we could have citizens control over the coaches, over the courts. Every jury trial could be that way. But unfortunately, and again, that's why I watch those investigation discovery shows, because the juries, if I was unfortunate enough to show up in one of these courts of injustice, and I tremble in fear at that prospect, because I know there's no chance of getting any justice there, especially for somebody that has my opinions, because that's going to come into play. But I don't want a jury of my peers, because I know the kind of
No,
people they pick. And
no,
I
wait,
know.
wait, wait.
And,
I'm going to tell
yeah,
you something. You are so
yeah,
much better off with the jury of your peers. See,
yeah,
this is the misperception. This is
yeah,
I'll tell you why. The juries are getting a raw deal here because you know what
yeah.
happens, and a lot of times, it's because of the manner in which the attorneys and the judges have manipulated the actual trial and so forth. So the jury, I mean, so suppose a judge can give the worst jury instructions, okay? And you want to think about why the jury came up with the way they
Right,
did? It
right.
so that's the real problem. And for people who think that going to you'll get a better deal with the judge, pick your
Well,
poison.
yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want that. But I mean, well, if juries, because juries, and you can't get them to understand. There was a movement back going to the '90s, '80s, and '90s, where they tried to pass out this booklet on jury nullification. Jurors have the right. They don't, but they think they don't. The judges instruct them that way. And again, it's like the population at large. If you're on a jury, the odds are you're going to be a sheeple. So
You know
so
what?
you're, you know,
Special shout out to my buddy Jay. You know who you are. That's so funny, Don, that when you just said, he said definitely there needs to be a push about exactly what the jury nullification, man. I'm telling you
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
People don't understand it.
Yep. And they is because the jury can interpret They don't have to just blindly interpret because, and actually, but that's a two-way sword because if they just interpreted the evidence as presented and they held to the reasonable doubt standard, which they never do. I mean, I just look and say, what you don't think there was reasonable doubt here? What's your definition of that? You're sending a guy away to life with no chance of parole on one testimony that they recanted. I see it happen over and over again. So they should be able to interpret the law. This law, I'm sorry, this law is unjust, and they have the ability to do that. And that's one way we could take control of the courts if the juries actually, flex their muscles a little bit.
But see, right? Knowledge is power.
Right.
So what
Exactly. That's
I mean, that really is. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that. See, it's got to be things like that,
yeah.
okay, and especially local communities, right?
Yeah.
People for people showing up at courthouses. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. We've got to work outside the box here. So
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
it's not well. What we're saying, because I mean, we're because so it's again June 21st. It's Massachusetts State Court, is it? Where is it? Where's it going to be at?
June 21st. It's at the Seaport District. It's the federal district court.
Okay, and so go show your support for Lisa because that's I talk about this all the time. Is that you have people that are willing to stand up like Lisa, and so there are people that are willing because they're the ones risking it. They're the ones opening their mouth, and so you need to have an amen corner behind them. You need to have somebody that's standing behind them. And that's the problem is people like you do that and it's crickets. There's nobody there. And then they can easily make an example out of you. But if you had a big entourage there or the audience, the same thing with school board meetings or anything, when the one parent, it's the Don Jeffries type, the big mouth that talks up, that's fine. But if you turn around and nobody's backing him up, it
But
doesn't
what
matter.
don't
But if
people understand, though, from history, though? Have we not learned this over and over again? That you know, you, you have to help other people as well. Don't let it just be when your butt happens to get into the frying pan.
right, but that's unfortunately that people are we don't have much empathy left in America, and people don't think. And you can see it all the time from on the road or anywhere you go. People, I was there was a discussion on Facebook today, and it was so disappointing to see people post this because I have so many pet peeves. But one of the pet peeves I have is if you're
What
if
did
you're in
you
a
just
if you're in a
say?
parking lot.
What did you
I said
just
I
say? You have so
pet
many
peeves.
enemies. Did you? Oh. Okay,
No,
good.
nobody pet peeves. Although I
Oh,
do
pet
probably have a lot
peeves.
of enemies too. Pet peeves. But what if I'm in a parking lot and I'm waiting to get a parking space, and
Yeah.
parking spaces are premium, and somebody's there, and they're getting ready to back out, and they make you wait. That drives me crazy. And I saw somebody discussing on it, and these people do it on purpose, and they admit it. They come on and say, "Oh yeah, if I see somebody getting frustrated waiting, I take twice as long." What? Why would you do that? What I mean, what is the mentality there? I mean, what does that say about human nature? I mean, that doesn't make. I mean,
No,
I know when I see somebody waiting, I break my neck getting out of there. I don't want them to have to wait, but so maybe I'm too much the opposite extreme, but I
Don,
don't
you know
understand
what?
that.
We have to change our ways. We, I'm thinking it's not working for us. We have to
Yeah,
start being
no,
nice.
it's just,
That's all there is to
oh
it.
well, there's you're telling me. What is it? Leo DeRocher's was not a nice guy, so he should have known. Nice guys finish last. Boy, that is, and the fact when you say nice guys finish last, everybody who says it nods in appreciation, like they know it. So they can't finish last unless the nice guys are not in charge, right? I mean,
I don't mean
it's
to die for it. Uh, Don, that was one of my favorite things about your articles this week on Substack. When you wrote that someone actually called you an asshole. Really?
yeah. Oh yes, yeah. I barely know the guy. He just and that's what you get that out there. You have people that, and it's and I understand it's kind of it kind of goes with the territory, so I understand it. But what we're seeing right now is that, and we got to talk about this, obviously, that and I don't know how much you want to discuss, but I was on your podcast that you're no
Yep.
longer on now, and we discussed a lot of stuff, and that's how I got introduced to you. You were kind enough to invite me on there, but so you're obviously very much interested in the J6 stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so here now we have this spectacle where last night, and I want people to consider that every television network carried this nonsense live except Tucker Carlson on Fox, to his credit. Every other one forced you to watch that. I mean, this is what Lisa, as an attorney who cares. I mean, and again, where Trump, if anybody from Trump is out there listening,
Ugh.
why aren't you sending money to these defendants who've been sitting in prison for over a year? I mean, I don't know what to say,
You
Lisa,
want
but
to
I
talk
think,
about you want to talk about peeves? All right,
yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
over the top with that. Okay,
yeah,
and please stop it with people are going to get pardoned, uh, and it'll be okay. Listen, they'll never ever be okay for all the things that have happened to them up to now. What do you think? That they ever could be made whole again? Please, just please stop it.
yeah.
I mean, in I'll tell you. Oh, I watched it last night. I'll tell you, but
Oh,
you know,
you're better than me.
um, yeah, I actually even tweeted out about it. No, see, this is
Yeah,
really disgraceful. But here again, let's go back to what the problem is.
yeah,
The attorneys. How is it the one conservative attorney is calling out these J6 defense attorneys? Because I'll tell you what, this whole thing should never be taking place in the first instance. How
it's
is
ridiculous.
it that there's not one J6 defense attorney? And I'm talking about plenty of these private defense attorneys who've gone and
Yeah,
many of them six figures on just one person. Now, this is really getting disgusting, folks. You should be demanding your flipping money back, your donations, because this is a talk about a grift. The
no,
these attorneys, all it needs to take is one attorney to file an action to have sought injunction, some kind of injunction to stop this J6 unconstitutional witch hunt
yeah,
from happening to begin with. This is so
absolutely.
prejudicial. The
Yeah,
J6 Commission itself is unconstitutional. And how
yes,
is it that
yeah,
not one attorney has even filed filed an action based on that? And I
because
don't
there are
and
no,
and
there's
don't tell me that, but it wouldn't be successful. I get don't listen. I don't want to hear what it. Oh, that it, what could be that you just do it. I mean, come on, folks,
there are no,
document.
there are no civil libertarians. You know that. That's why I talk about it all the time. And the ACLU, which I was a card carrying member of as a teenager, proudly ACLU member back when everybody was saying they're commies or whatever. Look, I want people to have their rights. I thought that was great. Mark Lane was my hero. He was a civil libertarian. What happened? A couple of years ago, they came out and made it official. They just said, well, you know what? We're kind of getting out of the civil liberties thing, even though our name says the American Civil Liberties Union. Right now, we're going to be concerned with racism and climate change. That's what they said. So that's why they're not there, because they don't care
Well,
about civil liberties anymore. So
but
who
again,
does?
though,
It's
take a look
shameful.
at that. The name. They do this all the time. Look at the
Yeah,
name. They
yeah,
say it's something that it's not. It is
yeah.
wolves in sheep's clothing again and
Yes,
again and again.
it is. It is. It is. But it wasn't. At least when I was young, it wasn't that way. They did defend. And again, you had to understand. It doesn't matter. Even if I believed all the nonsense that this was, these people are horrible, they're white supremacists, whatever, they still have due process. They've been denied every one of their constitutional rights has been shattered. They've been in prison for over a year, almost a year and a half, and no one cares outside of a handful of Republican congressmen who couldn't even get into prison. The prisons turned them away. This is, I've never seen anything like it.
Do you remember when was it that they were? Was it Skokie that they were allowed to
Mm-hmm.
march in
Yes,
the
yes,
streets
yep. Yes,
during?
it was a Jewish lawyer named Goldberger. I've tried to get on this show, and he doesn't want to give interviews because he's one of my all time heroes. Because this is a guy that defended, and these weren't, people like us get called Nazis now because that's just what you call people,
I
right?
think that's
For
hysterical.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Considering I'm Jewish, but whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, you're a Nazi. I mean, that's what they
I
say.
am. I
But
must be.
but
I must be.
but the thing about it is that these people back in the '70s, they were saying they're Nazis. They were saying, yeah, of course, I'm wearing uniforms and they're Heil Hitler and all that, and they picked a Jewish area of Skokie, Illinois, on purpose because they wanted to provoke. That was what they were doing. It was a provocative thing. And this guy, the ACLU, and this lawyer recognized that, okay, I obviously don't like these people, but they have rights. So he went out and defended their right to give their stupid little demonstration that nobody watched, everybody made fun of. But today they wouldn't, of course, they couldn't do that today. But the problem is people today who aren't Nazis and are at least
Right.
saying, I'm not a Nazi and get, offended by being called a Nazi, they don't have rights. So I mean, and nobody wants to defend them, but these people in prison, all they were doing. And again, it doesn't matter. Even if I was a Biden supporter, and I thought, oh, he won fair and square, and there was no fraud, they had a right to assemble there. And they, I don't care what, even if they were one of the handful that broke windows or something, should be in prison over a year later, and they haven't even been charged. This is
But
unbelievable
here
that
it
this
is,
happened.
the handful of people, right? The handful of people. And so people could see videos from firsthand from actual documentarians, civil, citizen journalists, okay?
Yep.
And the fact that they're able to even go with this narrative.
Yep.
Okay, we're talking about a handful of people who, by the way, if J6 Defense Council really wanted to do their job, could actually probably show that they were government assets.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
this is just. I mean, I. Oh my
Well,
god.
do you want to talk about? I mean, I don't know how you want to get into that or not because you were the controversy that led to you leaving the podcast. That was you were being contacted. I don't know if you want to talk about that. Can you
That's
talk
all
about
right.
that?
I can talk about anything. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so you were being contacted by somebody who claimed to be a J6 defender, right? Tell us that story. I know the audience would be
Yeah.
interested.
Oh, okay. But what happened was, oh, so was this particular account on Twitter that claimed to be a J6 defendant. Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't necessarily have proof that that was so. I had,
Yeah.
there were certain factors that actually showed otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular account, however, kept on stating, trying to persuade other J6ers to go with a bench trial. Now, everybody, decide for your own, but it's really just sounded like a some kind of psyop to me, and that person didn't like it. that I happened to call it out. Now,
Yeah.
so the thing is that um, I take every case, you know, for its own merits and so forth. I don't do things with a wide brush, but I do know about J6 that it was a hand group of people. Okay, and I definitely, don't tell me that there isn't controlled opposition going on with the
Yeah.
defense people here.
Yeah.
So I stood fast on that particular thing that I wanted to know the truth, and I wasn't willing to just throw in the towel. So I wasn't going to shut up about it. Let's just say that. And but that for me, truth matters, and that truth is my shield and sword, and that is just who I am. I've got to be true to myself. But it sort of was the catalyst. But Tamara and I loved what we did. We had a great podcast. She is a talented person, and we just different objectives. That's it. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry
but
that
I
that
was gonna.
happened.
That was good. Oh, but you know what? Doors open though, and I have no problem with it. I think she's a phenomenal person, and so I have no ill will or anything with regard to
Well, I
that.
hope that
It's
because
just that we have a different,
as you
just
as you
different point of view.
And as you know, as I wrote in Can't We All Get Along, that my most recent thing is that this is a problem we have where there's so many of these things that happen in the truther community or whatever you want to call it. And we need to support each other. We need to stick together. We need to stop letting petty squabbles because there are not enough of us anyhow. But if we don't stick together, there's
Yeah, but
we
I'm
sure
not even
don't have
sure
a
that we can stick together, Don. I've been thinking about it,
yeah,
and you know, there because you know why? Who are we anyways? To tell you the truth, what's our
yeah.
side? Because I'm thinking a lot of the people on my side. Actually, I get insulted a lot. People
Me too.
because because I call things as I see them, not necessarily. Um, I can't just so to speak, take one for the team just
Right,
because that's what just no, I don't just follow orders. I mean, really, you got so
right,
that's I guess that tends to be a problem,
right,
and I guess that's where the divide comes along. People they say we need to be together, but what does together mean? Because we need to be
right,
together on the truth. How's that? We got to be unified
right.
about
Well,
the truth, not a particular objective.
well, just like for right now, that anybody that still cares about civil liberties, and I realize that's less than half of America, to put it kindly, uh, at this point should be outraged about what's happening. But I see the comments, lots of good people. They think they should be executed. They don't care how long they're in there. They don't care they haven't been given a trial. They don't care about due process anymore until what if it happens to them? And you mentioned Lisa, you're Jewish, and this goes back to World War II, where the left that I grew up with, they're old. They used to use that analogy that applied to the Nazis, but it could apply to anybody. And that is first they came, I don't know, was it first they came for the liberals, then they came for I don't know, whatever. And then eventually when they came for me, there was nobody left. That's
Right.
where we are now. First they came for the conspiracy theorists, then they came for the racists, then they came for, it's kind of flip flop, but it's the same kind of thing. So you think you're safe. You're cheering this on because you hate these people because you hate Trump, and you got Trump derangement syndrome, and anybody voted for Trump, they good, they get what they deserve. Well, it might be the next time you vote for a stupid candidate that you think is great, and they decide to throw you. I mean,
The
you have to
pendulum
realize,
always swings, does it not?
yes, this is, if they're doing it to them, they can do it to you. So don't let it happen to anybody because rights don't mean
Right.
anything if
Yep.
we don't guarantee the rights of everyone. But that's what a civil libertarian thinks. And how many Americans do you think that way? Nobody does now. Very, very few.
I'm a little bit discouraged by that, by the way.
You're
I'm
telling
just,
me.
I need people to help show me some love and tell me that you guys understand that due process matters no matter who it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's you have to, because it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter what the issue was there. I don't care what, if they had been, yeah, I was appalled by the Black Lives Matters burning down cities and nobody being punished and prosecuted, but if they had taken however many, 100 or however many people they put in prison, nobody even seems to even know what the number of J6 defendants in prison are, but if they took 50 to 100 or whatever of BLM people and put them in prison for over a year. And they didn't halfway have representation. They claimed to be beaten. They were solitary confinement. I would be just as outraged because they're being denied due process. You can't have this. But you're in the middle of it. And you see what happens in the courts. But this is just a manifestation, isn't it, of what you see in the courts? Because now they're
Oh
not even
yeah.
pretending. They're not even pretending anymore. No, you don't have rights. We don't care. We just, the law just is whatever we say it is. No, we can't. We can't possibly. They were insurrectionists. What does that mean? You
Oh my
firstly, you have to, and they're not even being charged with insurrection, I don't think, but you have to prove
No,
that.
they're
You can't
not.
just see.
But I mean, but here's the thing: that the defense attorneys again have failed to even ask for discovery on the most basic.
Right.
And by the way, have you ever seen any of those defense attorneys be able to show that actually that what people went there for was
Yeah.
not to do illegal disruption. I mean, they won't even correct the narrative that perhaps, and I'm not, there's arguments either way, but let's just say this: there's a meritorious argument to be made that that uh, Pence. He was not acting as in his role as vice president of the United States, by the way,
Right.
during
Right.
that time. His role there was
President of the
president
Senate.
of the Senate. That is
Right.
completely different role. And
Right.
what the problem is people people don't understand real history.
No, they
Okay,
don't. And
and
yeah,
therefore it was not necessarily there was nothing nefarious
right.
about asking the Senate of the House, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
The
the
Senate. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, there I am. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The Senate, the president of the Senate, to actually not certify if there is substantial evidence of fraud. Now, forget about
Right.
whether there. We're not talking about actual. We're not going to
Right.
say was there fraud, wasn't there fraud. If there was
Yeah.
evidence of it, okay, there was nothing nefarious in asking that proper remedial action be taken. So, but
Cool.
see again, you won't see one of those defense attorneys do
No,
the
where
right
are
thing,
they?
and none
Yeah.
of and look you all these conservative attorneys who go on Tucker and
Yeah.
please, really,
Where are
okay,
they? Yeah.
please go ahead,
Well,
keep
Lisa,
gushing over the club.
at this point, I don't even know you would need because all those right wing attorneys, especially somebody like Lynn Wood, they've been discredited in the public eye, whatever. And so that wouldn't make a difference. But if you had somebody like, say, a Robert Shapiro that did OJ, somebody that comes to have to come out not from the right to be a civil libertarian. You need somebody like that who the media can't automatically smear. And
Yeah.
but I'm shocked. I'm shocked that none of them are bothered by this. And I want to say, well, I
Well, because why? Because they care more about the money. They care more about their income stream.
yeah, exactly. Tony, if you're listening, if you're gonna when you jump back to the desk, I know Tony's got his business going too. Can open up the phone lines. He has to do that. So I'm sure somebody wants to talk to Lisa out there, and you're good for the whole 2 hours, right? I figured you would be, but I
Yeah.
just that's
Are you kidding?
that's what.
For the great Donald Jeffries? Are you kidding me? Oh my God!
Well, that's good. I know we'd just be getting started. So, but I mean, there's just so on this J6 stuff alone. It's just I can't imagine what people again like Mark Lane, if he was alive, what they would be saying about this because this is where you have attorneys step up and really, of course, you should have the Trump campaign, whatever their millions they're raising. Yeah, it'd be nice if they hired more, but I tell you, Lisa, I don't know if they're not any judge of lawyers because look at the legal team he had. His team was awful, his legal team. So I don't know if but they should still put the money out there and hope. But where are the constitutional lawyers? I don't know where they are. I mean, but you're right. The people that are on Tucker, there's a guy, Jonathan Turley, who I respect a lot in Georgetown.
Yeah.
I don't know if he
Come on.
practices law, but
He's a
he's got
decent
a
guy, but I'm going to tell you what. No, he's in his ivory tower. He's in academia. And come on.
yeah,
He's not. He's
yeah,
a nice
exactly.
guy. I get it.
Yeah, but you need somebody with some kind of a name that they can't automatically smear to come out and say this is
Oh,
ridiculous. But there's
oh, wait.
there's nothing, nobody's saying a word.
I'm sorry. What about Alan Dershowitz?
Well, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Where is Al Dershowitz? But again, he's
Alan.
now kind of part of that. He's kind of part of that crazy Trump team, isn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
what's it? Sidney Powell and Giuliani. I'm surprised they haven't come out of the woodwork. Actually, look, I
No,
can tell you, but
people should be appalled, though. You really don't have to. But here's the thing: people are conned by this legalese stuff. Okay, really, and
yeah,
it is a game because the law isn't supposed to be about not being able to understand what's going on. The Constitution says you must have notice and be aware. Okay, so
yeah,
it's this racket that goes on, and that
yeah,
can I say that's the problem, right?
sure,
So
yeah, and
you really don't have. But when you take a look at last night, okay,
yeah.
what the that was the worst. I mean, now what's his name? Representative Benny Thomas. Is that it? Is it
Oh God,
Thompson?
geez, don't
What the hell's his name?
get me started. Yeah,
Benny.
yeah. Benny Thompson,
Benny. Okay.
Benny Thompson. Yeah, Benny Thompson.
Benny Thompson.
Ah,
Man, oh man, that whole thing.
yeah,
can you just say, let's just create our own fiction? You know what it was? It was a really sick, perverted, like
Yeah,
airplane parody because you put
yeah,
together your own little thing. Oh, that's a hearing. People, can you please? Can we?
yeah. Exactly. It's incredible, and it's insane. I see Tony's there. Cool. Tony, can we open up
I
the phone
love
line? Terry's
Tony.
Lisa's all excited now.
Yes.
Tony's in the room. Okay.
Don't wait. You know I love you, Don. But
I know,
listen,
I know you do.
my
I know you do. It's so. What's the phone number, Tony? Can we do it?
I'm putting it in the chat right now. It's 888-770-1776.
1776. I love
There
that.
you go.
That's fantastic. So, love to hear from you. We usually get calls, and you want to talk to the courageous whistleblower Lisa Belanger, and there's not enough of us out there, and that's the problem is that people aren't willing to. You need to take that, little bit of step at least, and you're taking a big step. So at least we
people
could
don't
do is,
realize that they have a lot of skin in the game, and
yeah,
that's okay.
absolutely,
They
yeah.
do. They really do. But as often people write to me, oh, I got a lot going on in my life. I gotta, I need to work. This, that. We got the family stuff. Got to
There's
make the
so many.
time
So many
because
great people out there in the chat. Frankly speaking, that's my friend Australian Ben. So we got at least two people watching us from Australia. So I'd love to see you guys, Jonathan Hale
love
and
Australia.
William
My
Hale
shout
and
out to my
yeah,
buddy Chris,
that's
Christine.
that. There you go. Well, hopefully she's watching too. But you got Prairie Fire, White Wolf, Chris Buchan. Lots of people. I think it's. I don't know. What do you have anything good in the Rockfin chat, Tony?
Yeah, you got some activity over there. I'm just now getting caught up. I was listening to you on the stream. And I was helping some customers here because we're still open at White's Wolf. So,
Right.
yeah, you got a lot of activity.
And as soon
And
as
again,
I
I
get
put the
my
number
as
put the
soon as I
number in the
get my
chat.
money, I'm going to see Tony.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, it's Tony. Tony's he obviously been so supportive of me, and that's what I mean. Tony's one of the guys that he is supportive. A lot of people, don't do that, and that's we have to try however we can do it. And it's not
Well,
always with money.
this is synergy, okay?
Mhm.
Because when I found you guys, really talk about heartwarming, because it really is about. It's like karma, right? You're paying it forward. It's not like a balance sheet type of thing. I mean, talk about finding people who are the real deal and truly do care.
Yeah,
You
well,
got Tom Cooper
we
over
try
in the
to.
Rockfin chat. You got Tom Cooper,
Hey,
Wiley over in the Rockfin chat, Don,
cool.
and they've been
Good to
going back and
text.
forth. A lot of content there. And then I put the
Fantastic.
number in the stream.
Okay, yeah, it's 888-770-1776. The best thing Alex Jones ever said was he answered in 1984 at 1776. That resonates. That's a great
Right?
saying. And to his
Listen,
credit, yeah,
listen. He not like. Listen, when he talk about marketing, that
yeah.
guy, he was on it. Talk about being on the money,
Yeah,
man.
he's an entertainer. And to his credit, he has a huge ego. We know that. But to his credit, he doesn't take credit for that. He answered 1984 at 1776. He said some guy that used to say it or whatever. So he does give credit to that person. So I'll give him credit for that because normally, he's got a big ego. But whoever that guy is
Hey,
out
when
there,
he's right, he's right. Come on.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean about what I wrote is that so many people I don't like, and our friend David Knight, Tony has said many times, like DeSantis or whoever. Of course, we probably know what his background might be. We don't necessarily trust him, but when he does something good, we have to support the same thing. And I certainly don't have any confidence in Governor Youngkin here in Virginia, but so far,
You got a call, Don.
he's been okay. Okay, great.
All right,
Caller, you're on the air.
Caller, you're on the air with Don. Go ahead.
Don Jeffries?
It's Don Jeffries.
Yes.
You're on with Don Jeffries. You're on with Lisa. You're on with Tony Arterburn.
This is Bob Wilson calling. I don't know if you hear
There's
me.
Bob. It's Bob Wilson.
Bob Wilson. My old buddy Bob.
Can you hear me now? I'm lowering my radio. I can't hear you on
Well,
my phone.
it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard
tell
to
me.
hear Don, but you can hear me, and Don can hear you.
Yeah.
As long as you can hear me, it was confusing to me with the limited resources.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Bob.
Now that we know there's a global currency and that Biden's calling for it, and they're basically calling for a new world order and different words. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you. You're coming in loud and clear, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, so now going on, was possibly a coincidence. These events, like, everyone's laughing. The global currency is a conspiracy theory, and I mean, what chokehold could you then if there's a global currency?
Gotcha. I think you broke up a last little bit. I think I get what you're saying, though. Clearly, they want a global currency. There was that cover of The Economist magazine back in like 2009, and then back in the 90s too. They had two different covers, I think, of the same magazine about time for world currency. So maybe it might be even older than that, but that's a Rothschild-owned publication, by the way.
Right. And over on YouTube, Lisa, they have a question for you.
Following they really think that these mega bankers really care about their rights, and eventually they're gonna not turn.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a bad connection, Bob. I'm gonna drop the call, but I think I got what you were saying. If you want, you can try to call back in. It must be something on the uptake. It's just a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
Appreciate you. We got okay.
Yeah,
So
I heard. And certainly we got to fear the digital currency, which there's that's right. That's going to blend right in with the social credit score. And we don't want to be in a situation where you go to your bank and they say, especially people like us, they're going to say, okay, Jeffries, I just read your last couple tweets. You're no financial transactions for you today. I can see that happening. But Lisa, on YouTube, somebody, Houston asked, what are your thoughts on the latest Arkansas? Did you hear about that guy Middleton what was he? Who hung himself and shot himself in the chest? Did you hear that? Even for the Clinton body count, it's over top. Literally, he was found hung and he shot himself in the chest. Did you hear that, Tony? Mark Middleton, I think his name was.
Okay, I mean, really? I mean, seriously, right?
Yeah, it's not. I think of all because they got a lot of impressive Arkansas there in the Clinton body count, but this may be the top. I don't know you can top somebody shooting himself in the chest and still having the wherewithal to hang him. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
It goes to show you how invincible the law enforcement,
yes.
The courts, they're hand in hand, okay, along with the medical industry. It goes to show this really tops it off. I mean, really, in our faces.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 + 2, right?
Yep.
They're going to convince us it's otherwise.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's so in your face, and
see, the problem is law enforcement, because as you see, and many times, no matter how obvious of criminal action going on, especially that involve these political figures, if they don't want to do anything about it, what's going to happen? Nothing.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the thing where you get, and that's where you get the extent of the corruption from top to bottom. Because obviously, if you had an honest medical examiner, just for this particular death, if you had honest law enforcement, the first thing you do, they say, well, I don't know, Chief, I don't think there's no suicide here. You can't, obviously, you have a hanging and a shotgun blast to the chest. This is murder. So that's it. You go.
This is the worst. I mean, really, whoever would have thought? I mean, talk about the Twilight Zone. This is really wow. This is bad. Bad.
No, it really is. That's the most. And when I heard that, I said they just don't. They don't care anymore. And that's at this point they don't. And that's where we're at, because they know they've reached that stage where what we're talking about. Everything is what is your recourse? Let's say you're finding out. If you find out something bad, what do you do? Well, the legal system. There's a wall up there. The media, the state-controlled media. I mean, if anybody, you have any doubts about the state-controlled media, when I call it that, just look at what this January 6th thing is. Every single network, it's like required. I mean, I don't know what TASS and Pravda did back then, but I'm pretty sure that's what they did, that kind of stuff. And we have, Tucker Carlson decided not to do it, which is great. But that's all we had. Everybody else televised it.
No, instead he's going to have pundit, talking heads who are going to, glaze over everything that's not the problem, because we're not going to talk about the pathetic defense counsel who are feeding at the trough,
Yeah,
getting paid
yeah.
six figures over and over again to do what?
Well, do we know how many of those? Like, let me ask you, as an attorney, is there any way? Is there a way you could try to contact any of the J6 defendants or their families and say, "Hey, I'll be," because that's what we need, is a lawyer like you that's going to speak out about it.
Well, technically, actually, I probably would have had the opportunity, but for the fact of the Massachusetts judges there who want to say that I'm suspended, supposedly.
Okay, yeah.
But even though I've got my federal license that's still active, the problem comes into play that you have to be considered, if you're going to go into a different district, you have to be considered to be in good standing. I don't know if they'd say that. I don't know if they'd vouch for me.
Yeah, I don't know that you're considered in good standing.
But I'll tell you what, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to be, if someone had been willing to share their case, I wanted to be able to show what could have been done and should be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what somebody should be doing. At least you mentioned Dershowitz and people like these alleged, legal scholars. I don't see any of them. Has Dershowitz said anything about this case? I don't know.
Oh God, please! I'm hoping that he suddenly decides he's going to freaking retire. Just please. I mean, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Crying out loud. But you know how here's the difference with the legal community and like the medical community, at least with the COVID stuff. All right. The doctors actually got together, right? At least there was a solid number of doctors who got together and actually went to different states. Look, they did Senator Ron Johnson held a hearing, being able to show real information. They got together and put together an actual forum to get the information out there. Nothing like that for the legal side. Nothing. I'm standing here by myself, people. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And believe me, I wish I had the money to do a one-woman show, but no, they're too busy. I'm sorry, the criminals, predators, they're too busy trying to. The ones who got my father medically abducted to begin with, okay, they're also they're still involved now in cleaning the pickings off my father's bones. Okay, they think, okay, they're holding my supposed inheritance ransom. Okay, because I did the Netflix. I did a documentary for no pay, by the way, exposing for another person, nothing to do with my case whatsoever, for John Savinovich, okay, and how the AG's office actually facilitated, okay, calling this guy incompetent, which the guy spoke for himself, and anybody who could see that documentary, okay, John Savinovich is his own best witness, okay, but yet the people who are doing the dirty deed on my father's grave, all right, are actually got a fake court order trying to say that they have a court order for over $400,000 because I did that expose. Oh gosh!
Well,
how about they try and get a real court order, not one from a judge who decides, well, who planned on retiring the next day. I think that the court order should actually come from a case that I'm actually a party of. That might actually work better.
Hughes can ask another question. Ghislaine's trial status. Yeah, what's going on with Ghislaine Max? And let's just look at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, which was in my area. It was very, very close to me.
Can I please get that kind of court attention, please? On something like the murder by judicial thuggery. Hello?
Yeah,
and we're worried about what these two people do in their bedroom.
Yes, and that what that got so much more media attention, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's the
lots more,
problem.
way more legal experts chimed in on that. I don't see they're not chiming in on this or Ghislaine Maxwell. Houston brings up a good point. Ghislaine Maxwell almost no coverage at all. I'm sure there, what as a the meme I've seen. I'm sure you've seen going around is that Ghislaine Maxwell, the first person to ever be convicted of procuring child sex victims for nobody. Because who did she procure them for? We don't know. Right? Why is
Right?
she convicted? Can't name names, right?
Oh yeah, I know, right? Listen, those cameras, they just don't work on certain timing.
Oh yeah, the cameras never. The cameras never.
Cameras
They
didn't work
never
that
work
day.
at this time. And yet
What evidence? What
yeah,
evidence?
cameras always fail. School shootings, whatever. But the speed cameras on every traffic light, they're never broken. They're always working. Yeah.
Look, it made my he made me disappear. Look at what you.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
I think what's going on with the people in prison again, and I think that they're political prisoners, and this is and I talk about Lincoln, as you know, and this is the precedent, and I've said that if some lawyers did come forward and start trying to make it say, hey, this is ridiculous, they're being denied due
Yeah.
process, I guarantee you, the government would cite Lincoln's precedent during the previous insurrection.
Yeah, there we go.
This was just like that. It's a,
And God forbid anybody actually realized that he was Mr. Tierney himself.
yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing I try to point out, Lisa, is that he's when you have a society where that's the guy that you're hearing. I'm finishing it up, Hidden, that's your secular saint. I'm finishing up Hidden Mystery 3, which is going to have all kinds of great stuff. Bob Wilson, who called, the three searchers, Bob Wilson, Chris Graves, Peter Seacosh, all helped a lot. I found out so many astonishing things about. Unfortunately, going back to I mean, I love the War for Independence. I'm with those guys, but
Yep.
they had a really a bad example of what they did during that. I'll describe that, a massacre. You had very bad behavior in the illegal war with Mexico, which was the first step when Polk did that. And Congressman Lincoln actually opposed it, amazingly enough. And then, of course, during the Civil War with the scorched earth policy, the total war, civilians became fair game. Property, stealing, plundering, raping, that's okay. And if you look at what happened I found out so much stuff about the Philippines, what they did in the war in the Philippines, the late 1800s, early 1900s. Amazing. And in Haiti, when Woodrow Wilson invaded Haiti, and then you go
Yep.
right up to the Korean War,
So that
the
was the
Korean War
real right
atrocities.
there, right then and there. That was the beginning of the end. Woodrow Wilson then.
Yeah, and we had so we've had these things forever. So when they talk about the My Lai massacre or whatever in Vietnam, or the stuff that Ben Bradley Manning exposed in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is just standard operating procedure, and it goes back more than 150 years. And you just look at your history books; it's been done time and time again, and it's the
Right?
same kind of stuff.
Most people don't understand judicial
Yeah,
tyranny either. All right?
yeah,
They
yeah.
just they don't get it until they're in it, and it's like quicksand.
Right. Yeah, well, that's why I say when people say, "Yeah, throw the book at that guy," whatever. Okay, again, why are you waiting? Cut his balls off and stuff. That, and I said, okay,
Right.
you may be on trial for something, right? And just you got to rip, but the people just like
Like how many
those.
people? And what about the amount of like wrongful convictions? By the way, how about
Yes,
all that? How many people have actually? I mean,
DNA evidence alone, yeah. And
I
who knows?
mean,
Before DNA evidence, imagine how many people were probably wrongfully executed. That's why I say the this
Frank,
idea that they, yeah, well, this idea that the reasonable doubt, which I don't even necessarily like the reasonable doubt
I
stuff,
just
but
don't even know what reasonable doubt is. Have you read
no,
those? Have you
they have,
read those instructions?
yeah. I mean, you didn't. I mean, I can't tell you how many of these cases I've seen where somebody was sent away not for a year, but for life without the possibility of parole, and the evidence against him is so questionable.
And the
I said,
attorneys don't stand up
no,
and object, though. Okay, the attorneys do
Because
not
they
say,
usually have
"Judge,
public
you're wrong
defenders.
with that obstruction, Judge."
I'll be
Hey,
right back,
right.
Don.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. And Prairie Fire points out Eisenhower murdered millions of Germans, POWs. That's right. Operation Keelhaul, one of the many atrocities that the Allies committed that I wrote about in Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics. We don't even know how many, maybe a million or whatever it was, but yeah, they definitely did. Operation
You know
Keelhaul.
what the
But
real problem was, Don, though? The Anti-Federalists. This is where it all started. The Anti-Federalists gave in. Okay, it should prove a
yeah,
point talk about a slippery slope. You see what happens when you start negotiating. Okay,
yeah,
if the Anti-Federalists, who, by the way, that's a smear term by the Federalists, whose name the Federalists is actually a misnomer, by the way. Okay,
right.
but they gave in, and that was the problem. All right, you give an
Yeah,
inch because you think, let's play along to get along, let's make all nice, and okay, it just
yeah. Well, our show, our side. You want to say the side of liberty and everything. Once we got our independence, you're right. Early on, the Hamilton side, Hamilton's he's a hip black rapper on Broadway because he was the banker's favorite founder. He's the only one that gets away with great coverage. He wasn't a racist. He was a great guy, and because the bankers loved this guy. He's the father of debt. His side, and Jefferson was the other side, and Jefferson's side's lost. And ever since then, that
right.
side has always lost. And now I don't even know that side doesn't exist anymore. That side is us who don't really have power. But who in politics has not Trump? Who has power?
This is the important thing, Don, that I really want to hopefully get across today to people. What don't you understand? That voting, this is not going to solve our problems per se. I get it, we have to vote, but please don't make it like that's we're going to be saved come the midterms. I don't care
Yeah,
what. We are not, politicians are not doing it for us, folks. Okay, I'm just
yeah,
saying that they are not the answer, and we keep doing the same thing over and over. This is one party. They're just
yes.
what, two sides. What's that?
Two sides of the same coin. Yeah, and it's but you have a guy when in the rare occasion when you get somebody who looks like maybe they slipped in from the outside. There was this guy Ryan Kelly who's running against this awful Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. Who again, if you had any kind of an educated public at all, how she could be reelected to dog catcher is beyond me. I mean, she's an absolute tyrant, fake kidnapping plot, and all that stuff. But she'll win reelection. I guarantee it. But this guy, her best opponent, Ryan Kelly, he was arrested by the FBI the other day because now they're trying to charge him of being on the Capitol steps or something on January 6th.
all of a sudden. But
Yeah.
there's something weird about that too, though. I don't know. There's something, just the whole thing about it. But I'm going to tell you something. People want to, say when the FBI was good. Excuse me, can we go back to history again?
Never
Okay,
the guy.
by design, it was never a good thing.
Palmer raids in the 1920s, and certainly, I mean, J. Edgar Hoover. Come on, I mean, and everybody now admits, oh, J. Edgar Hoover, yeah, he was horrible and racist and a cross-dresser and all that. But and he certainly didn't respect your. He was one of the main cover-up artists in the JFK assassination. We didn't know that, but the FBI has never been good. But this is the problem because of Trump, because of the actor Trump. The people on the left now, a lot of them, if they have Trump Ranger syndrome, they love the FBI. They love the CIA. They love Liz Cheney. Oh, Liz Cheney. Oh man, they love her.
Wait a minute,
Liz.
though. But guess on the opposite side. Now people on our side supposedly
Yeah.
they're going after Tulsi now. I don't think Tulsi's gonna. I still don't. I still don't trust it. I'm sorry.
No, well, and again, I know what Tulsi, and I met her. I got to meet her at a rally a couple years ago, and I gave her Survival of the Richest. I don't think she's read it, but I got a picture with her holding it up. So, but she's and I very my late friend Brian Lloyd, who's an attorney, he was there with me, and he got me on film. And Jonathan Morley of the Washington Post actually went with the story and talked about how I got her on tape saying that she was reading the JFK and the Unspeakable, and that I got her to say, well, you must obviously it was a conspiracy, and she kind of she did admit that but she hesitated, but she did, she said, and I so it was pretty cool. He thought it was a good catch, but she was nice, and certainly, but that's the problem, is those are the best we're going to get. The best you're going to get are people like Tulsi Gabbard, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the people like that who have their own issues, and none of them are perfect, and they probably could all be tainted. I mean, I know.
But you know what the thing is? See, we need to see, the federal is not the answer. Okay, we need to let the DC sweep implode. We need to. How about? I mean, really, is it not about the grassroots, the bottom going up, right?
Right.
We probably have much more control over what from our own states.
Local. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Which then has a synergistic effect, maybe. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, and that's why I was so hopeful about the school board, because right here in my backyard, Loudoun County, Virginia, and I hadn't heard anything about it, but I read the other day, and I don't know if it's true or not, because it was kind of conservative talking points saying that the school board members are being defeated at a record, or they're being defeated at a record number of incumbents. I don't know if that's true. I have to look into that. If it's true, that's great, because that's what I thought. If we could affect some change there at that level, maybe it will start going up. But yeah, you can't start at the top. It's hopeless.
But even with that, though, even with the school boards and things like that, I'm still thinking to myself, maybe we're fooling ourselves in a sense that, wait, it's still the system, it's still the establishment. And that I see it again as a poison well. They still have control. It's almost like the court system. We're thinking that, okay, if we just do the right thing, that we show them the right information, they'll say, oh, okay, now we get it. But that doesn't usually happen when the establishment itself is the core of the problem. And from my point of view, people have more control when they take their kids out of the school system. And I know homeschooling is hard. I totally understand, but more so than ever today, there's a community there that people can actually homeschool together. It's not just So,
what it is, there is, and Pat Buchanan talked about a culture war back at the was it 92 convention or whatever Republican convention, and boy was he dead on. But the problem is, we've obviously, those of us who have any kind of traditional, and not that I'm a traditionalist, but I'm not crazy either. And our side obviously lost, because when you reach the point where, in power, this is entrenched. This is not some crazy person saying men can have babies. This is what medical science is saying now. Because if they don't say it, they'll lose their jobs. You can't have the NFL just as if they weren't already crazy enough. They just hired their first transsexual cheerleader. I mean, again, this is just.
I missed that.
Yeah. I mean, again, do they really think NFL fans, NFL teams, NFL players, this is what they're looking? I mean, this is mind-boggling, and we're losing. And if you have the culturally, we've lost. There's nothing. And the problem is because of anything, whether it's politically, culturally, anything else, we're like Orwell's proles. The proles outnumbered the party members, and as Orwell said, they could have overthrown the party anytime they wanted to, but they didn't. We could overthrow these people anytime we wanted to. I mean, we outnumber them by the billions around the world. I mean, there's so many more of us. There's nothing we could do, but we can't come together. We can't even get. You saw what happened on January 6th, and you had hundreds of thousands, maybe. And look what happened. That people learned. Oh my God! Look what they'll do if we even hint that maybe we're fed up. We're not going to take it anymore. We're going to be.
Well, and don't think. Listen, that domestic terrorism bill, HR 350. Don't think that's gone away. By the way, okay. And by the way, I don't know if you Remember that I did something on
and
an article on that? Can you hear me?
more than half the country on.
Am I losing you, Dawn?
The problem we do. I don't know really. Do you have any? Yeah. Yes.
You're breaking up on me. Can you hear me?
Looks like Don froze up a little bit. Let me see if we can get him back in the stream properly here. All right, we'll wait for his connection to reboot.
Oh, who?
That's Charlie.
Charlie?
That's Charlie the
Wait,
Chocolate
Charlie?
Labrador. Yeah, I have Charlie and I have Beans.
Oh, okay. I remembered Beans, but I didn't remember Charlie.
There he is. We
There
got
he's
Don.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I wasn't hearing. I missed someone. I don't know what's wrong. I guess I'm just gonna have to get another laptop or something. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, don't call Elon.
No. Elon he's
I
protecting
know
my free
everybody
speech.
on our side is loving the guy, but I'm just going to say,
No.
do you really want to trust him? I mean, can we go back to history?
Yeah, I haven't seen any changes at Twitter. I don't know. I haven't noticed anything different. But yeah,
I'm sorry, but
it's ridiculous.
Okay, do we not all know that he really is into that brain chipping thing? I mean, are we discounting that?
Yeah.
Oh, what
Yeah.
could go
That's what I
possibly
say.
go wrong with that? Right, Tony?
There's this.
You need
so
to sign up for it, Lisa. Get your Neuralink now.
I'm sure a lot of people would love me to do that.
Tony, what were you? I mean, I'm assuming you were glued to the television set last night watching the J6 trial. I mean, it's a commission. I mean, it's just must see TV.
Didn't tune in. No, I didn't tune in, Don. It's bad
Really?
for you.
Okay, but here's the thing. Let me tell you. Representative Benny Thompson?
Benny Thompson.
But I can't think of his name. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a block or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, he said that this is going to go on for weeks, he said.
Oh,
Can you imagine? They were so, it was, listen, they were the worst listen, Biden did a better job at reading teleprompter than they did.
Well,
How sad is that?
Well, I saw on a conspiracy forum they had some female Capitol police officer that was talking about wading through pools of blood, and she felt so like this was what is she talking about? I've never seen videos of any of that. But again, they get away with these lies.
And again,
anything.
Videos that supposedly they said were never seen before. Hello, defense attorneys. You think that's a violation right there? Oh my God.
They're withholding 14,000 hours of videotape. We know 14,000 hours. I mean, it's amazing. But 14,000 hours of videotape being withheld. I mean, that's incredible. But and again, to his credit, Tucker Carlson is going as far as you can go with it. But if he's really the only one covering it. But he pointed out again yesterday that, and he's right. He showed the police waving them inside. He said, "How come nobody's talking about that?" And again, so this is an armed insurrection where nobody's armed. They've said they did not arrest.
Ray Epps, hello, all these people who have not been arrested.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're there. Nobody has a problem with that, though. Okay. I swear to God, this is like, that Stepford Wives thing.
Tony, do you see that message, Tony? I guess it's Freely Speaking's been trying to call, and he says a female voice recording that answers.
That's the operator. Just tell him to keep calling. I wasn't able to get him through.
Oh, okay. I think he's in.
The lines are crossed. I've been accused of that more than once.
But it's amazing that we're again that so few people see I can't. But we've got a point now where being a civil libertarian is like, at this point, the truth is kryptonite to the people that are in charge. they something like the concept to them to say, I mean, I've gotten arguments so many times with people on social media about free, First Amendment or free speech doesn't protect hate speech. I don't know how many times that what is hate speech, define what that is, and what is misinformation, define what that is. This is your interpretation. It's not a legal term. You
But
can't.
again, we have to go back to the judges.
You got your
Okay.
call live, Don. Your
Oh, we got to
live.
call. Okay,
Go ahead.
okay.
You're on with Don
Caller.
Jeffries. Go ahead.
Good day, Donald. Ben from Australia, mate. Hello, Tony. Hello, Lisa.
Australian, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing a wonderful spirit to the program. It's only 8:30 in the morning here in Australia, and it's been a joy listening to your laughter.
Well, thank you, Ben.
There you go, Lisa.
Thank you. I know. Listen, I got to save this
raise with
for
you guys,
posterity, though, because not many people say that about me.
January 6th hearing.
Yeah.
It's astonishing to me that President Donald Trump is letting these people be led through this kangaroo court type of trial.
Yes. Yep.
And he's abandoned the people that are still locked up. And
Yep.
they only really went to your nation's capital at his behest. They thought they were going there to do the right thing. I wonder if the most effective thing, and I guess the responsibility of Donald Trump, is to advocate for those people, to speak for those people, to somehow try to get them free. Why is Donald Trump not doing so?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and let the panel answer that, Ben, and let you go. But I appreciate the call. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And Ben, I'm sorry I can't. The way this is set up, it's great hearing from you, but the callers can never hear me.
Yeah.
But Ben, Australian Ben's great. What a nice big supporter, and I certainly love having somebody in Australia, hanging from the bottom of your feet on the bottom of this globe. It's amazing. But that's good. You asked the right question, didn't you? Because we talked about who could. Obviously, Donald Trump is the logical person. It should be every one of its rallies should be focused around those defendants. He should start off by talking about what an injustice this is, and he should have been funneling several of those millions that he's raised into big defense funds so they had the best lawyers money can buy. He's doing nothing. He never talks about it. If he talks about this at all, it'll be, they robbed me, I wanted a landslide. It's all about him. He won't talk about the collateral damage of people whose lives have been ruined, have been in prison for over a year, rights, just completely shattered, all due process denied. But that's the question, isn't it, Lisa? Where is Donald Trump on this?
Let me tell you, I get plenty of hate on this because I'm pissed. Okay. We're supposed to trust the plan. Well, I think you know what I'm going to say about that, right? You can trust the plan, and you know what?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I suggest, I don't know how he looks in the mirror at night, in terms of the fact of the lack of assistance of anything. I mean, it's leaves me speechless. But here's the thing that I'm often wondering about: how is it that all these indictments often are based on stop the steal? Why is it that, or how is it that none of those officials are involved or being weren't indicted and so forth? How is that? There's just something that does not add up. And these defense attorneys, again, not wanting to seek discovery into that smells. Yeah.
Right. Well, it isn't this. What is this? The fact that these people have not gone to trial, and maybe a couple of them have, but they're still in prison, and you're having this prejudicial hearing, this commission where people are talking about that. I mean, how does that not jeopardize all the rights to a fair trial?
Is that not 101? You don't have to be an attorney to know that this whole thing can't be taking place because of criminal trials that are pending. But nope, here we go again. Defense attorneys just playing along to get along. It is so disgusting.
Yeah, exactly, and that's nobody talks about this. And
how is really seriously? I think I'm probably one of the only attorneys out there that has actively and publicly said this. Do you know of anybody else?
No, man, that's what I'm talking about. The entire legal profession should be outraged. They're not. And again, it's because of, we go back to Trump. Trump was the worst thing to happen to politics in the history of this country because he divided the country. I think he's an actor. I think all the Trumpenstein project after Frankenstein. And I think that he was designed to do this. And the people that reacted to his obnoxious personality, they hate him so much that anyone associated, so those people, those are Trump supporters. So they don't care what happens to them because you voted for that awful, the worst person in the history of the world, Donald Trump. And you can't have a justice system, a legal system. You can't have that based on that kind of emotion. That's not law. It's ridiculous, but that's the way our whole system is now.
Right.
I mean, it's
And
absolutely.
talking about laws, we are. Listen, all these laws. Yeah, let me tell you something. There's a problem. There's a problem with most of them that are unlawful, by the way.
Yeah,
Should we talk about how actually the Supreme Court is probably unconstitutional?
Sure. Well, at the very least, they should. And I'll write a lot in Hidden History 3. I write a lot about the judicial review, and that goes back to John Marshall. And again, my boy Thomas Jefferson, he was outraged by that then. He was, I think he's the last one to criticize judicial review until I started doing it.
Right.
Because you can't, again, they just usurped a power that wasn't there. And so now, so you could, something like Roe versus Wade, that only happened because of judicial review. Because they had the power to just say, well, of course, the founders didn't talk about abortion in the Constitution. That's ridiculous. Just like they didn't talk about.
Like that was even like.
Yes, exactly. They didn't talk about transgenders. They didn't talk about any of that stuff. Of course not. They couldn't have envisioned it. But you can't just invent that. Well, this is a right. What do you mean a woman's right to choose? How is that in the Constitution? And the Supreme Court is strictly to interpret the Constitution. That's not in the Constitution.
And we're gonna let lawyers who are donned in black robes, yes, they've got some kind of superior morality there, that they're superhuman people, that they know better than anybody else. So
yeah. Absolutely. That's what it, but it's, I just amazed. And it's, you realize when, again, I look at the comments and I see, that's why one of the dumbest things that people that still support Trump do is they follow his lead and say, I win by a landslide. No, I mean, yeah, there was lots of fraud, and I think you probably did win legitimately, but
right,
it wouldn't have been a landslide because there's 100 million people easy in this country that hate Trump. So he's
think about this though.
You know?
All these attorneys, Sidney Powell, Giuliani, and whatever. Okay, I'm not understanding. To me, there's so much evidence out there. More so about the ballots in terms of the mail-in ballots and so forth. Why did they focus on this damn Dominion thing? I don't get it.
Yes,
I mean, they totally took the wrong tactic.
Yeah, they should have been against. I mean, I talked about vote fraud way before in Hidden History. I talked in the vote scam, the Collier Brothers wrote vote scam, which is still available online. This has been going on for a long time, and the electronic voting machines open the way to fraud. But you don't personalize it by saying Dominion. You just talk about electronic voting. Makes it easier to have fraud. We need to have paper ballot, hand counting, and you need to have everybody have representatives there watching. It needs to be closely monitored. That's the only possibility.
And how many dead people voted? How about that?
Right. Well, then you get into voter ID where they've allowed that to be turned into a racial thing. And again, that's demeaning to blacks, as most of their stuff is. It's because, so black people don't have ID? I mean, this is ridiculous. And I think,
right? I mean,
it's crazy.
That is like the most absurd.
So if you're against voter ID, you're for voter fraud. That's it, because that's the only thing that prevents dead people from voting. And we know, Lyndon Johnson was the first one back in when he was landslide Lyndon, when he won that that election in the Senate in 1952. He went around with his men to the cemeteries and they copied names down. And when one of his men said something to him, he says, "Well, they got as much right to vote as anyone else." That was his line. Landslide Lyndon. So that's
You can't make that up, though. You really can't.
so that's where it started. But he's a great man. And he's recently had some great and you talk about a body count. Boy,
Oh, I know.
people think he killed his sister, that he put a hit out on his sister. Joseph, I mean, that's even Bill Clinton didn't do that. Okay.
Wait. Wait, did he have a
But
sister?
yeah, that's true. That probably helps. It would, yeah,
Just
exactly.
wondering. I don't recall there was a sister, but maybe he had one. I don't know.
Right. But yeah, so it's I don't know. You have to laugh at this. I'm glad you had that attitude where you can laugh at it, because you have to laugh at it.
Oh, if you don't, really? I mean, we are
Yeah,
in, whoa. I don't know how you get through it otherwise, because this
yeah,
is
because
just like,
it's just allowing and again, the fact that there's no opposition to this, and there wasn't there. Oh, and there, to be honest, there wasn't any opposition at the time of the voting either, because all you had was Trump's nonsense about he was cheated and he was on in a landslide. Of course, again, because he's the actor playing this overblown ego, it's all about him. So it gets lost in the shuffle that it never happened before. Because they had, but then the other side, of course, is it was the most honest election in the history, the most secure election. It's like, and they
yeah, right?
criminalized it. At 2016, what happened? How many of them said he's not my president, not my president?
Suppose that was okay, though, right?
4 years before, and again, people don't, and nobody comes back at them. It's like, wait a minute, but that's where we are right now. Double standards, and that's where you get to this stage. And there's no civil libertarians today. I can't imagine what Mark
See,
Twain, Nat Henoff.
but it was what Tony had brought up before, though, right? That they purposely had Thomas Jefferson out of here during the time of doing the Constitution. That was
Yes.
I think that was the real problem. If that, who knows, if they didn't get him out of here, what
Mm-hmm.
could have been really some really great stuff. Okay, but
Yeah.
again, here we go with the plotting and the
Right. Well, thank goodness, because and all the people I love the best, including Jefferson, of the founding fathers, Patrick Henry, George Mason, the real radicals in my book, they all were opposed to the Constitutional Convention. They liked and I think the Articles of Confederation probably were better overall. But what made the Constitution palatable and eventually really a great document was the Bill of Rights. So once you got that Bill of Rights in there, okay, that protects you, and you have the checks and balances, the three equal. I think that's about as perfect a form of government as you can have, but it wasn't followed from the very first time.
and there's this thing about, you talk about conspiracies, and I like to get into it. I want to do research on it because I don't know all the real hard evidence about the lost 13th Amendment, because we've lost any sense of separation of the checks and balances because of the amount of influence that lawyers and judges have.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you made it that lawyers weren't able to and judges weren't able to run for political office, then it had a chance of working.
Right. And that's well, so many things. I mean, George Washington and the other founders, they didn't even want political parties. And once we started getting these partisan parties, and they're both controlled, obviously, because although I will say the one thing, my thinking has changed a little bit on that. I called them Republicrats forever, and I still call them that. But I think at this point, if somebody put a gun to my head, and I actually think they're counting the votes, which I don't think they are, but if they are, if I go through the trade, I'm probably going to vote for Republican, which I've never done before, because I think they are less dangerous, generally speaking. And the Democrats are just, I mean, it's basically voting against a corrupt guy who might possibly be sane versus somebody who's absolutely insane. And that's what we're seeing on the other side.
We are really messed over, because look what you have in the Republican Party. You have people like Matt Gaetz. I mean, the guy who's Mr. Red Flag gun law lover, will say anything he wants at any time. Which way's the wind blowing? Lindsey Graham. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, so I see my friend Laura Rubin. Laura, good to see you here. Said Donald Trump screwed up, plain and simple, and he did, and that's what he. And I can't make people that still love Trump understand that he threw people under the bus,
He did.
literally, and
Oh, well, they're still doing it though. Who said it today? There was a tweet saying, "Oh, look, Nancy Pelosi refused more like the
yeah,
National Guard bringing in the
yes,
national." Okay, listen.
yes.
Do you not understand that you were throwing Jake Sixers under the bus with that argument?
Yes.
You're saying,
Yep.
"Oh, if there was more protection, then
Yes.
you're saying
Exactly.
that for the real minority who caused the disruption."
Right.
With that faulty argument, you're saying that the mass of people were there was a problem. That is and that is how people.
Are you reading this comment on the screen now, Lisa? About you, Lisa is hilarious. If the show The Nanny ever did
oh
no, she'd be great. Oh yeah, you are hilarious. It's great, but but and you're right. They're making it again about. It has to be about Trump instead of being and blaming Pelosi, who of course is horrible, but it should be about the fact that these people that there was obviously a wild overreaction to say the least, lots of lying. It was not an insurrection. A police officer shot and killed an unarmed woman, and nothing happened to him. In fact, he was given a standing ovation in Congress. That's the things that people ought to be focused on. These people have been in prison over a year, denied due process, but it gets lost in the shuffle of Trump's personality. The side that hates him wants to punish him over this. We got to get Trump. It's his fault. And the other side is, they robbed Trump. They robbed Trump. They don't want Trump. I heard, somebody saying to me today, see, they're holding these hearings because they're scared Trump's going to get back in the White House. So he can do nothing again for another 4 years.
Oh, please. What? So, I don't even want to think about that new vaccine either. So please.
Oh no, we don't want that. Well,
we won't go there. That's terrible.
This is going so fast. We only have like a minute. I want to make sure you give you time to give out your website again and anything else you want to promote. Tell the people whatever you take. The last bit of time for whatever you want to.
Oh man, Don, what can I say? Okay, my website, thecourtracket.com. So right now I'm trying to do another forum where I want to try and be able to help people understand about the court system and how people can be more empowered. If you can't go pro se, because I understand that representing yourself that's a lot, but at the very least, people need to be aware of their case, because most often your attorney is more worried about their self-interest than yours.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing great work, Lisa Belanger. I can't tell you, and you're such a joy. You're funny, and you're just so much fun. I'm gonna miss not going on another show with you too, because you're just.
I'm gonna do another forum though.
Well, good. Well, please remember
me. And wait a minute. I'm waiting to be invited on America Unplugged. Tony, did you hear that?
Did you hear that, Tony? Okay, that's what we have to unleash you next on that. Tony, or I think he's hearing that he's not in there.
He said I had enough of that lady.
No. No. I'm sure we'll have to work on that. But I'd love to have you. We love talking with you, and the audience loves you.
Well, Don, I mean, you and Tony, and especially on Saturdays with Billy Valentine. Listen, you guys go over the real thing. You guys are the real deal. You talk about real facts, real thinking. Imagine that. That's what I love about you. And I can't thank you enough for allowing me to, hang around with you guys.
Well, it was my pleasure. And I thank you so much for coming on. And again, we'll be talking soon again, I'm sure. Just try to stay sane in this loony bin. But thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. And I didn't get to talk to you all. And thanks for listening so much to I Protest.